There's a specific kind of loneliness that only exists in a city like Vancouver when the rain just doesn't stop. It's not a storm, it's a weight. And today I can't stop thinking about Noah Lynn, sitting behind those massive glass walls of the coal estate, watching the neon lights bleed into the pavement. It's a haunting image. You have this young man, a Delta, living in a world that is fundamentally built for people who aren't like him. We talk a lot about status, but for Noah, being a Delta wasn't just a label. It was a prescription for invisibility. Then you add the fact that he was mute. It's as if the world didn't just ignore him. It actively erased him. Exactly. He's leaning his forehead against that cold glass, and I keep thinking about how he must have felt his own reflection was more real than he was. He's a ghost in his own home, and it's 2 a.m. That's a heavy hour to be awake, isn't it? It's the time when your thoughts finally catch up to you, because there's no noise left to drown them out. And the silence in that house, it wasn't peaceful. It was oppressive. The narrative mentions his fingers trembling as he touched the window. It makes you realize that his silence wasn't just about his voice. It was the silence of a man holding secrets that were physically tearing him apart. That's the part that really breaks me. The violent war happening inside him. He was carrying life, a miracle really, but at the same exact time, something else was taking his own life away. He's standing at the crossroads of a beginning and an end, and he has to carry that weight entirely alone. Alone. That's the key word, because he looks at his watch, and Adrian isn't there. Adrian is the one person who should have been the anchor, but instead his absence is just another shadow in the room. You have to wonder, how does a person survive that, knowing that the life you're creating might be the only legacy you leave, because the world never bothered to listen to you while you were here? I think that's why the story is titled The Mute Delta's Silence. It's not just that he couldn't speak, it's that even if he could, would anyone have heard him? The storm outside was loud, the city was bright, but inside that glass house, the silence was the loudest thing of all. It's a tragedy of presence. He was there. He was breathing. He was hurting. But to the world, and perhaps even to the man he loved, he was just a part of the furniture. It's a reminder to us, I think, to look closer at the people who don't make any noise. Yeah, because sometimes the quietest people are the ones fighting the loudest wars. And Noah, he was losing his, one raindrop at a time.
I've been thinking a lot about the architecture of a person, how some people aren't built of flesh and bone, but of something much harder, something colder, like Adrian Cole. Adrian. It's a heavy name for a man who carries so little warmth. When you look at the way he treated Noah, it wasn't just cruelty. It was a complete absence. He was a man carved from ice and ambition, wasn't he? Everything he did was calculated for a seat at a boardroom table. Exactly. And the tragedy is that Noah was just a line item on that ledger, a signature on a marriage certificate required to unlock an inheritance. To Adrian, Noah wasn't a partner. He was a key to a door he'd already decided to walk through alone. I keep coming back to that foyer, the morning after. Can you imagine the silence in that house while Noah waited? Then the door opens and the air just shifts. That scent of cedar and expensive cologne, it's so masculine, so sharp. But beneath it, there's that other scent, the perfume of another person. It's a physical blow, isn't it? Even if nothing is said. Adrian walks in, carrying the evidence of his indifference on his skin, and he doesn't even have the grace to be ashamed. He just exists in his own orbit. And Noah is so quiet. That's what breaks my heart. He doesn't scream. He doesn't demand an explanation. He He stands up and offers to take Adrian's coat. His movements are practiced, silent. It's like he's turned his own grief into a ritual of service, hoping that if he plays the part perfectly, maybe the script will change. But Adrian doesn't even look at him. Not a glance, not a flicker of recognition that there's a living, breathing soul standing 3 feet away. Just that command, "I'll be in the study. Don't disturb me." It's so final. He brushes past him like Noah is just part of the furniture. It's that last moment, though. The way the narrative describes Noah's hand, it lingers there, doesn't it? Reaching out into the empty space where Adrian just was. It's a reach for a connection that never existed. That's the deepest kind of loneliness, I think. To be married to someone, to share a home with them, and yet to be reaching for a ghost that's standing right in front of you. He's grasping at shadows. It's a quiet tragedy, isn't it? No raised voices, no shattered glass, just a hand hanging in the air, and a door closing in the dark. Yeah, just the sound of a heart breaking in total silence.
It's strange how we remember the smallest things from the world is ending. The smell of that clinic, it wasn't just clean, it was aggressive. That sharp, stinging scent of antiseptic that tells you, before anyone even speaks, that things aren't okay.
It's a cold kind of smell. It strips away the humanity of a place. And in the middle of all that white, all that sterility, you have Elias, a man who spent years training to be the shield between his patients and the truth. But even he couldn't hold the line that day.
I keep thinking about his hands. He was holding Noah's chart so tightly his knuckles were white. You could see the physical effort it took for him not to let his hand shake. He wasn't just a doctor in that moment. He was a man forced to break his friend's heart.
And then there's Noah. That image of him sitting on the edge of the examination bed, it haunts me. He was swinging his legs, just slightly, like a kid waiting for a school bus, or a child who hasn't yet learned that the world can be cruel. There was this terrible innocence in that movement.
Elias finally said it. He let the professional mask slip, just for a second. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. He said the word aggressive, and the air just seemed to leave the room. You expect a scream, or a collapse, or at least a sob, but Noah didn't give him that.
He didn't cry. That's the part that stays with me. He just nodded, as if he'd been waiting for the other shoe to drop for a long time, like he'd already made peace with a debt he knew he'd eventually have to pay back.
It was the silence that followed that was the heaviest. It wasn't an empty silence. It was full, heavy with everything they weren't saying. Then Noah reached for that notepad. No words, just the sound of the pen. Scritch, scritch, scritch. In a room that quiet, it sounded like a hammer hitting a nail.
He didn't ask, why me? He didn't ask, is there a mistake? He just wrote that one devastating question. How long do I have?
It's a brave kind of clarity, isn't it? To look at the end of your life and not ask for a miracle, but simply for the timeline. It's as if, in that moment, Noah became the oldest person in the room.
Maybe. Or maybe he just realized that when time becomes a finite currency, you stop wasting it on the why and start figuring out how to spend what's left. It's heartbreaking, but there's a quiet dignity in it that I'm not sure I'd be strong enough to find.
Noah, I've been sitting here for the last 20 minutes trying to figure out how to frame this. I've looked at the blood panels 4 times now, hoping for a lab error, but the results are consistent.
You're speaking very quietly, Elias. You only do that when the news is heavy. Just tell me. I'd rather have the weight of the truth than the lightness of a lie.
The cancer is aggressive. We knew that was a possibility, but the scans confirm it. We need to start the aggressive cycle of chemotherapy immediately if we want to buy you time. Maybe a year, maybe a little more if your body responds well.
A year? It's not a lifetime, is it? But I suppose I should be grateful for the months.
There's more. And this is the part where medicine stops being a science and starts being, I don't even have the word for it. Noah, your blood work shows a massive spike in HCG levels. You're pregnant.
That's not possible. For a delta to conceive is rare enough, but for a male delta, Elias, that's a medical anomaly. It's a miracle. It is. It's a miracle with a very cruel price tag. Because of the location of the malignancy, the treatment required to save your life, to give you that year, is entirely incompatible with a pregnancy. The chemotherapy will kill the fetus within days. And if I don't do the treatment, if I just let things be, then we lose control of the timeline. The hormonal shifts of a pregnancy will act like fuel to the cancer. It will accelerate. It will take everything from you, Noah. If you choose to carry this child, the cancer will likely claim you before you even reach the 3rd trimester. You won't survive the term.
So the choice is, I live for a year in a hospital bed, watching my body wither away while a miracle is extinguished, or I give everything I have left to make sure that miracle survives.
Noah, look at me. You are so young. You have so much light in you. As your friend, I can't. I can't just stand by and watch you choose a death sentence. We can try again later, maybe. We can find other ways.
I don't need the night, Elias. I've spent my whole life feeling like a footnote, Elias, like someone who is just passing through. But for the first time, I have the chance to be the reason someone else gets to stay. You're really going to do this? You're going to give up your last months for a chance at a term you might not even finish? It's not a sacrifice if it's for him. I can feel it, Elias. It's a him. I'm keeping him. And I need you to promise me that you'll help me last just long enough to see him breathe. That's all I need. Just one breath that isn't mine.
You know, I've been thinking about that evening a lot lately. Not just the events, but the physical weight of it. That mahogany table, Noah had set it so carefully. It wasn't just a meal, it was an altar. He was waiting to offer up the biggest news of their lives.
It's the cooling of the food that gets to me. It's such a quiet, domestic tragedy. You can almost see the steam stopping, the light in the room dimming as the minutes tick by. Noah is sitting there, holding on to a secret that is literally life-changing, and the person he needs to share it with is just a few feet away behind a closed door, lost in a world of numbers and mergers.
And then the door finally opens. Adrian steps out, but he isn't there. His body's in the room, but his mind is tethered to that phone. He's speaking in that low, sharp tone, the voice he uses for business. It's a wall. Noah tries to find a crack in that wall. He reaches out, just a gentle tap on the arm. It's such a vulnerable gesture, isn't it? Like a child asking to be noticed.
It really is. And the response, it's like a physical blow. When Adrian pulls away and says, "Not now," he has no idea what he's actually rejecting. He thinks he's rejecting an interruption. He doesn't realize he's rejecting his own child, his partner's heart, and the one moment they can never get back.
That's the moment the ultrasound photo crinkles. I can hear that sound in my head, that sharp plastic snap of the paper. Noah's palm is sweating, he's trembling. He's holding a miracle in his hand, and in a single second, it turns into a burden he has to hide. He realizes the man standing in front of him isn't a partner in that moment. He's a stranger.
Make yourself useful and pour me a drink. That line, it's devastating. It reduces Noah from a soulmate to an assistant. It's the ultimate dismissal of intimacy. And Noah doesn't fight back. He doesn't scream. He just lowers his head. That's the maturity of his pain. It's too deep for an argument.
Exactly. He goes to the liquor cabinet. He does what he's told because the unspoken truth, as it's described, is dying. It's a small death right there in the living room. He realizes that even if he told Adrian now, the moment is poisoned. The joy is gone.
It's a reminder of how fragile communication is. We think we have all the time in the world to say the big things, but the now matters. When you miss the now, you're left with that silence Noah felt. It's not a peaceful silence. It's a thick, heavy fog that just sits between them.
I think that's the real tragedy. Adrian got his merger, I'm sure, but he lost the chance to be the man Noah needed him to be when it mattered most. And Noah, he's left alone in a house full of expensive furniture, holding a piece of paper that feels like a ghost. It's a heavy reflection on what we prioritize. It makes you want to put the phone down, doesn't it? Just to make sure you aren't missing the ultrasound hidden behind the person you love's back.
You know, I was reading through those old archives today, and I keep coming back to that one phrase the tabloids used for Marcus, the white moonlight. It's such a haunting way to describe someone. This idea of a person who is luminous, cold, and completely unreachable, yet they cast a shadow over everything else. It's a heavy title to carry. And for Noah, it must have felt like a ghost had suddenly taken physical form. You have Marcus, this high-born Omega, someone who wasn't just beautiful, but vocal. He took up space. He had a presence that Noah, in his quietness, simply couldn't compete with. When Marcus came back to Vancouver, it wasn't just a person returning. It was an entire atmosphere shifting. It's that shift that gets to me, that slow, agonizing change in the air at the Cole Mansion. Can you imagine standing in your own home and feeling the temperature drop? Adrian starts coming back later and later, and it's the scent that's the real cruelty, isn't it? That sweet vanilla. It's not just a smell, it's a marker. It's a signature left on Adrian's skin that doesn't belong to his husband.
Softly, vanilla is supposed to be comforting, but in this context, it's invasive. I keep thinking about Noah on that balcony. It's a vantage point, but it's also a cage. He's looking down, watching the car idle in the driveway, and he sees that silhouette in the passenger seat. There's something so visceral about seeing the person you love through a windshield, knowing there's someone else sitting where you should be.
And the silence of that moment, it's deafening. Noah is watching his life be replaced in real time. But what really breaks my heart is the duality of the pain he's feeling. We often talk about heartbreak as if it's a metaphor, but for Noah, it was becoming indistinguishable from his physical reality.
Pausing. You're talking about the tumor. It's almost poetic in the most tragic way possible. While his heart is breaking over Adrian, his body is literally failing him from the inside. He's fighting two battles he can't win. When he coughs and tastes that iron, that sharp metallic tang of blood, it's the moment the emotional pain and the physical illness finally collide. He wipes that speck of blood from his lip, and it's such a small, lonely gesture. No one is there to see it. No one is there to ask if he's okay. Adrian is downstairs or in the car or lost in the scent of vanilla, and Noah is on the balcony, realizing that the clock isn't just ticking for his marriage, it's ticking for his life. It makes you wonder what's worse. Is it the betrayal of the person you gave everything to, or is it the betrayal of your own body? Noah is standing there, watching the white moonlight shine on someone else while he's slowly fading into the dark. It's a quiet kind of suffering, the kind that doesn't make a sound until it's far too late. It's a lot to sit with. Just the image of him standing there in the cold air, trying to breathe through a chest that feels like it's tightening from both grief and disease. He's running out of time, and the person who should be holding him is the one letting him slip away. Truly, sometimes the most tragic thing isn't the end itself. It's having to watch it arrive, step by step, from a distance.
You know, I keep thinking about that suit. Just the image of it. A piece of fine tailoring meant to signify status. But on Noah, it just looked like a shroud. It hung off him, didn't it? Like he was disappearing inside his own clothes.
It's the weight of it that gets me. Not the weight of the fabric, but the weight of the expectation. Adrian didn't ask him to come to that gala. He insisted. Just stand there and look presentable. as if Noah were a piece of furniture you rearranged to catch the light, rather than a man who was clearly fading away.
And the light in that ballroom, it must have been suffocating. All that gold leaf and crystal, the sound of champagne flutes clinking like little glass knives. It's a loud world. And then there's Noah, the mute Delta, just standing in the corner, holding all that silence inside, while the guests whispered behind their hands.
I think the hardest part to stomach is the laughter. Noah hears Adrian laugh with Marcus, a sound that was genuine, warm, full of life. It's a sound Noah probably hasn't been gifted in years. To hear the person you love offer the best version of themselves to a stranger, while you're standing 5 feet away, starving for a scrap of that warmth, that's a different kind of cold.
It's a betrayal of the spirit. And then the physical body just gives out. That sharp pain in his abdomen. You can almost feel it, can't you? That moment when the internal pressure of being ignored becomes a physical wound. Noah's face turns ashen. He's gripping the table just to stay upright. He's drowning in plain sight. And Adrian looks over. That's the moment I can't stop replaying. He doesn't see a man in agony. He doesn't see his partner. He sees a scene. He sees a potential embarrassment to his curated evening. It wasn't concern in his eyes, it was irritation, like Noah was a cracked glass that might ruin the tablecloth. It's heartbreaking, because Noah feels that irritation. He reads it instantly, and instead of reaching out, instead of saying, "I need help," he does the one thing that truly breaks my heart. He forces a smile. Softly, he swallows the bile, literally and metaphorically. He chooses to suffer in total isolation, rather than risk being a burden to a man who is already checked out. He's protecting Adrian's ego, while his own body is screaming for mercy. There's a certain kind of dignity in that kind of pain, I suppose. But it's a lonely, tragic dignity. To stand in a room full of people, next to the person who is supposed to cherish you, and realize you are utterly, completely alone. I wonder how much longer a person can keep smiling like that before they simply break. I don't think he's breaking anymore. I think he's already gone. He's just waiting for the gala to end.
It's a scene that lingers, isn't it? The quiet of that study, a week into the progression of everything Noah was losing. I keep thinking about the sound of that porcelain. Not the sound of it breaking, but the sound of it rattling on the way to the desk. That small, persistent chatter of the cup against the saucer. It's the sound of a body betraying a person who is trying so hard to remain useful.
You're right. It's that specific kind of vulnerability. Noah wasn't just bringing tea, he was trying to bring a sense of normalcy back into the room. He was carrying his dignity in those trembling hands. And the tragedy is that Adrian, at that moment, couldn't see the dignity. He only saw the imperfection. He only saw the illness reflected in the tremor, and it scared him. It made him lash out.
And that's the hardest part to swallow, the patience fraying. We want to judge Adrian for his cruelty, for that sharp question, can't you even do a simple task right? But when you look closer, you see a man who is watching the person he loves vanish right in front of him. He's frustrated with the tea, yes, but he's really screaming at the injustice of the disease. He's just directing it at the wrong target.
It's a displacement of grief. But for Noah, that roar of "get out" must have felt like a physical blow. When the cup slept and the tea splashed, it wasn't just a mess on the floor. It was the final collapse of the bridge Noah was trying to build. You mentioned the porcelain breaking, but think about Noah on his knees. He's picking up those shards and he's bleeding and he doesn't even feel it.
That's the detail that breaks my heart. The physical sting of the glass cutting his skin was nothing compared to the shattering of his own heart. It's that moment of total emotional numbness. When you're so hurt by someone's words that your own body's pain signals just go silent. He's there, bleeding on the hardwood, and all he's doing is looking up, searching for one look of regret or kindness.
And he doesn't get it. Adrian looks away. That's the true silence of the scene. It's one thing to be yelled at, it's another to be ignored while you're at your lowest, literally on the floor. Adrian's refusal to meet his eyes is a kind of abandonment. It's the moment Noah realizes that his illness hasn't just taken his steady hands, it's starting to take the way Adrian looks at him.
It makes you wonder how many times we've all looked away because the pain in front of us was too much to acknowledge. Noah was pleading for a connection, for a hand to help him up, or even just an apology. But Adrian was already gone, lost in his own anger and fear. It's two people in the same room, separated by a sea of broken porcelain and unspoken grief.
It's a reminder of how fragile we are. Not just our bodies, but the grace we extend to each other. In that study, the tea was hot. The glass was sharp, but the coldest thing in the room was the space where a sorry should have been. It's a heavy thing to reflect on, how easily we can break the people who are already struggling to hold themselves together.
It's the sound of the water that stays with me, honestly. That tap running in the guest bathroom, it wasn't just to wash his hands. It was a shroud, a way to create a wall of white noise between his agony and the rest of the house.
It's a lonely kind of expertise, isn't it? To become a master at hiding your own collapse. Noah wasn't just sick. He was performing the role of someone who was fine. And he was doing it so well that the person closest to him found it easier to believe the performance than to look at the performer.
That's the tragedy of Adrian's perspective here. He saw the weight loss, you can't miss that, but he framed it in a way that protected his own peace of mind. He called it stress. He called it a plea for attention. It's a devastating irony, calling a cry for help attention-seeking, as a way to justify giving that person less attention.
It's a defense mechanism. If Adrian admits that Noah is actually breaking, then Adrian has to be the one to catch the pieces. And you look at the physical descriptions, the pallor of the skin, the way Noah winced just by moving. Those aren't subtle signs, they're screams, but they're silent ones.
And then we get to that morning on the sofa. It's such a fragile image. Noah curled around a pillow, seeking some kind of comfort from an object because he couldn't find it in a person. Adrian stands there, and for a fleeting second, the veil drops. He feels that pang.
That word, pang. It's so sharp. It's brief. It's that momentary realization that something is terribly wrong. You can almost see Adrian's hand hovering in the air, reaching for Noah's hair. In that one gesture, there was a chance for everything to change. A single touch could have broken the spell of Noah's isolation.
And then the phone buzzed.
Marcus. Just a name on a screen, but it was enough to pull Adrian back into the shallow world. It's haunting how easily a moment of profound human connection can be dismantled by something as trivial as a notification. The tenderness didn't just stop. The text says it evaporated, like it was never really there.
It makes you wonder how many life-saving moments we miss because we're looking at a screen instead of the person hurting right in front of us. Noah was right there, curled in a ball, disappearing in plain sight. And Adrian just looked away.
I think that's what hurts the most. Noah wasn't hidden in a basement or a far-off place. He was in the guest bathroom. He was on the living room sofa. He was right there, and yet he might as well have been on the other side of the world.
It's the placement of the papers that gets me first. On the kitchen counter, right there, where you leave a grocery list or a set of spare keys. Just a casual reminder of a life being dismantled.
It's a specific kind of cruelty, isn't it? To take something as seismic as a divorce and treat it with the same domestic boredom as a chore. Divorce agreement. The words don't even look like language anymore when you're staring at them in that light. They just look like jagged edges.
And then you have Adrian. He's on the other side of the kitchen island. That physical divide between them might as well be an ocean. He's adjusting his cufflinks. That detail feels so heavy. He's grooming himself for his next life, while Noah is still gasping for air in the current one.
It's the language he uses that really breaks my heart. He calls it purely business. He talks about merging assets and the board's preference. It's as if he's scrubbed every ounce of humanity out of their years together. He's replaced a marriage with a transaction, and he expects Noah to just audit the loss and move on.
I keep thinking about that word Adrian used, comfortable. He told Noah he'd be comfortable. It's such a hollow, sterile word. You can be comfortable in a chair or in a hotel room, but you can't be comfortable when your soul is being evicted. Adrian is offering him a settlement, as if money could somehow fill the space where a partner used to be.
And the silence, that's the most haunting part for me. Noah wants to scream. He wants to tear his throat open just to make a sound that matches the scale of the agony inside him, but he can't. The silence is a weight. It's a physical thing holding him down. He's watching the man he loves walk away toward a better merger, and he can't even find the breath to protest.
It becomes so much darker when you realize what Noah is carrying alone. He's not just losing a husband, he's losing his future. He's carrying Adrian's child, a life that was supposed to be the ultimate merger of two people, and he's facing his own mortality at the same time. He's dying, and the person who should be holding his hand is instead handing him a check and asking him to sign.
There's a profound loneliness in that, to be carrying the life of the person who is currently paying you to disappear. Adrian is calculating stock options and family alliances, completely blind to the fact that Noah is carrying the only asset that actually matters.
It makes you wonder how someone can become so polished, so professional, that they lose the ability to see a human being right in front of them. Noah is standing there, breaking in two, and all Adrian sees is a contract that needs to be closed.
It's a quiet tragedy. No shouting, no thrown plates. Just the soft sound of cufflinks clicking into place, and the rustle of paper. It's the coldest way a heart can break, in a clean, well-lit kitchen, with a generous settlement on the counter.
You ever notice how silence can be the loudest thing in a room? That's where Noah was, just standing in that heavy, suffocating quiet. He wasn't being stubborn, not really. He was just waiting for a miracle that he knew, deep down, wasn't coming.
He was looking for a glimpse of the man he'd spent 3 years building a life with. He was looking for Adrian. But the Adrian he knew, the one who supposedly loved him, was already gone. What was left was just cold.
And then the ultimatum. Friday. It wasn't just a deadline, was it? It was a countdown to the destruction of the only place that ever felt like home, the orphanage. It's one thing to hurt a person, but to threaten the sanctuary of children just to get what you want, that's a different kind of darkness.
It's surgical. Adrian knew exactly where Noah's heart lived. He knew that Noah would never let those children suffer, even if it meant he had to bleed for it. It's the ultimate betrayal, using someone's kindness as the very blade you use to cut them.
I keep thinking about that moment Noah looked at him, really looked at him. 3 years. 3 years of shared meals, shared dreams, and now a child, a life growing inside a body that Noah feels is already failing him. And in that one moment, Adrian becomes a total stranger.
Imagine the weight of that, to realize the father of your child is someone you don't recognize anymore, to see that the person you gave everything to is the one pulling the trigger. It's a special kind of grief when the person you want to run to for comfort is the very person you're running from.
It's the decaying body part that haunts me. He's carrying new life, but he's so hollowed out by the cruelty of the situation that he feels like he's fading away before he even signs. He's exhausted, isn't he? Physically and spiritually.
He is. The resistance it breaks. Like a bridge finally giving way under too much weight. He realizes there's no miracle coming. There's no soft landing. There's just the pen.
That pen. The narrative mentions it's the same one he used to communicate, to connect. It was his voice when he didn't have one. And now he has to use that same voice to sign away his existence, to erase himself from Adrian's world. Softly, he picks it up. No more stalling, no more hoping, just the cold reality of ink on paper. It's a quiet tragedy, isn't it? There are no screams, just the scratch of a pen and the sound of a heart finally admitting it's over. Yeah. And in that moment, he isn't just signing a document. He's signing away the last 3 years of his life. He's choosing the orphanage over himself. He's choosing the children over his own heart. It's a brave act, in a way. But God, it's a lonely one. It's the loneliest thing I've ever heard.
It's the shakiness of the hand that gets me. When you look at those 2 words, Noah Lynn, written on the bottom of those papers, it wasn't just a signature. It was the sound of a door closing, wasn't it? A soft, final click.
It really was. And you can almost see the ink trembling as it hits the page. It's such a heavy thing, isn't it? To sign away a life you thought was permanent. But what's even more striking is the contrast. You have Noah, who is essentially vibrating with the weight of it. And then you have Adrian.
Adrian, he snatched those papers. That's the word the story uses, snatched. There's no mourning in that movement, just this clinical, cold relief. He checks his watch. He's already on to the next hour of his life, while Noah is still standing in the wreckage of the last 5 years.
It's the weekend comment that feels like a physical blow. I need the house empty by the weekend. He offers the lakeside villa like it's a kindness, but we both know what it is. It's a way to move the ghost out of his sight. It's a gilded exile.
And then the tears come. They aren't loud, though. They're just silent tracks. I think that's the loneliest kind of crying, when you've run out of words to say to the person in front of you, so the grief just finds its own way out.
But then the moment shifts. Noah places his hand on his stomach, and suddenly the room isn't just occupied by 2 men ending a marriage. There's a third life there, one that doesn't even know the world is shaking it.
That apology, he whispers. I'm sorry, little one. That's the turning point, I think. That's where Noah realizes he isn't just a discarded partner anymore. He's a protector. He's apologizing for a father who isn't even looking at him, a father who is busy checking his watch while his world is being rewritten.
It's just us now. There's so much terror in those 4 words, but there's also a strange newfound sovereignty. He's letting go of the we that included Adrian and defining a new us that's smaller, but maybe much stronger.
You see that strength in what he chooses to take with him, or rather what he chooses to leave. 1 suitcase, that's it. He leaves every shirt, every coat, every piece of fabric Adrian ever bought for him. It's like he's shedding a skin that never really fit.
He's walking out into the cold with almost nothing, isn't he? But he's carrying the only thing that actually matters. He's leaving the villa, the house, and the expensive clothes behind because you can't build a future on things that were given as an afterthought.
It's a quiet exit. No screaming match, no slamming doors, just a man, a suitcase, and a secret promise to a life that hasn't even begun. It's heartbreaking, but there's a dignity in it that Adrian will never understand.
Yeah, Adrian got the house, but I think in the end, Noah is the one who actually kept his soul.
It's been 2 weeks now. 2 weeks since the world seemed to hold its breath, and then just exhaled everything at once. Have you ever noticed how the most life-altering news always arrives when you're doing the most mundane things?
Every single time. It's never a grand moment. It's usually just a Tuesday afternoon or a meeting you didn't want to be in. For Adrian, it was exactly that. A boardroom, a stack of papers, a life built on structure and logic. And then his assistant walked in. You told me her face was completely drained of color.
Like she'd seen a ghost before the news was even spoken. She didn't even have to say it. The silence she brought with her was heavy enough. When they turned on the TV, it wasn't just news. It was a visual of an ending. That lakeside villa, it was so remote, so peaceful. But in the dry autumn wind, that wooden structure didn't stand a chance. It went up like kindling.
I keep thinking about that wind. It's supposed to be the season of cooling down, of things settling into a quiet sleep. Instead, it just fed the flames. The report said electrical failure, something so small, so invisible, hidden behind the walls of a place that was supposed to be a sanctuary. It's hard to reconcile the why when the what is so devastating.
Adrian just watched it. He didn't move. He just watched the orange glow on the screen reflecting in his own eyes. It's that moment where your brain hasn't quite caught up to your heart yet. And then his assistant whispered it. Just 3 words. Mr. Lin was inside.
That's the moment the floor falls away, isn't it? I heard about the pen. Such a small detail, but so telling. He was holding it so tight that it just snapped. A clean break. I think in that second, something inside Adrian snapped exactly the same way. The professional, composed man was gone. The world tilted on its axis, and suddenly gravity didn't work the way it used to.
He didn't wait for a car. He didn't wait for anything. He just drove. And I don't think he was even seeing the road. He was breaking every speed limit, his hands probably shaking on the wheel, but his mind was already at the lake. It's that desperate, frantic rhythm of denial. You know the one, where your heart beats a name over and over.
Not Noah, not Noah. It's a prayer and a protest all at once. You think that if you move fast enough, if you get there before the smoke clears, you can somehow outrun the truth. You can arrive at a version of reality where he's standing on the shore, waiting, wondering why you're so worried. But the lakeside was quiet when he got there. Just the smell of ash and the sound of the water hitting the stones. It's the stillness that hurts the most after a tragedy. The fire did its work and the world just went back to being a lake. It's a heavy thing to carry, isn't it? The realization that someone who was your entire horizon can just vanish into the autumn air. Adrian stood there, looking at the ruins, trying to find a person in the charcoal. It makes you realize how fragile we are, how much we rely on the people we love to keep our own world from tilting over completely.
It does. And now he's left in that tilt, just waiting for the world to level out again, even though he knows it never really will. Not without Noah.
I've been thinking about the silence of that morning. You know, after the sirens stop and the water has been sprayed, and there's just that heavy, damp smell of cold charcoal. The villa wasn't a home anymore. It was just a skeleton.
It's a haunting image. Ribs of blackened timber against the sky.
And Adrian, I keep coming back to the moment he stepped over that yellow tape. It's such a small physical act, but in that moment he was stepping out of his old life entirely. He wasn't the man in the expensive suit anymore.
Exactly. The narrative mentions his shoes, Italian leather, probably worth more than some people make in a month, and he's just destroying them in the ash. It's symbolic, isn't it? The soot on his hands, the ruin of his clothes. He was finally touching the reality of what he had ignored for so long.
He was looking for Noah, calling out a name into a space where sound doesn't even echo anymore because the ash just swallows it. There's a specific kind of desperation in that, screaming for someone you know deep down isn't going to answer.
And then the firefighter stops him. I think about that man too, having to hold someone back from the wreckage of their own heart. He hands Adrian that small plastic bag. It's so clinical, isn't it? To put a whole life, a whole relationship, into a clear bag.
It's the ring that breaks me. It wasn't a family heirloom. It wasn't a diamond. It was just a cheap silver band Noah bought for himself. Because Adrian never got around to it. He never made the choice to put it on Noah's finger himself.
That's the weight of it. It's not just the grief of the loss. It's the weight of the not yet. The things we postpone because we think we have forever. Noah wore that cheap ring as a placeholder for a commitment that Adrian was too busy or too distant to make. And now, it's just a blackened piece of metal in a bag.
You can almost feel the heat of the guilt in that moment. It's more than sorrow. When Adrian falls to his knees, that's the sound of a man realizing that he can't go back and fix the silence. He can't go back and buy the ring himself. He's clutching a piece of silver that represents every missed opportunity.
That howl, the text describes it as tearing from his throat. It's such a raw, visceral word. Tearing, like his soul was physically breaking apart. When you lose someone and you realize the last version of themselves they knew was the version that didn't try hard enough, I don't know if you ever truly stand back up from that ash.
I don't think you do. You just learn how to carry the soot. He sat there in the remains of the house he built, holding the only thing he had left of the person he failed to cherish. It's a quiet, devastating reminder to be present, to buy the ring, to say the words while there's still a roof over your head.
The rain, it's different today. It doesn't feel like a cleanse. It just feels heavy, like the sky is trying to hold us down here.
It's just Vancouver, Marcus. It's always been gray. We're just finally noticing how cold it actually is.
I know you don't want to hear the usual things. I know how hollow they sound. But Adrian, looking at that casket, I have to believe he's at peace now. Somewhere where the weight isn't so much for him to carry.
Peace? Is that what we're calling it? It's an empty box, Marcus. We're standing over a hole in the dirt staring at a polished piece of wood with nothing inside it. It's a farce. The whole day is just a performance for a ghost who isn't even here to watch it.
It's for us, though, to say goodbye, even if there's nothing to bury but the memory.
Look at the headstone. Read those words. Beloved husband. They carved it into the granite like it was a fact, like it was something true.
It was true, Adrian, in the way that mattered.
No, it's a lie. He wasn't a husband. He was a shadow that moved through the hallways. He was a person I shared a bed with who was already miles away before he even closed his eyes. I spent years trying to reach out to him, and now I'm standing here still reaching, and there's still nothing there.
You did everything you could. You can't blame yourself for the silence he chose. Let me hold the umbrella, at least. Lean on me for a second. Please, just don't touch me right now. His hand hangs in the air for a moment before he slowly drops it. I'm sorry. I just don't want you to fall. I've already fallen, Marcus. I've been falling for a long time. I look at that name, Noah Lynn, and I realize I didn't even know the man I was married to. I let him be a ghost in our own home because it was easier than facing the fact that he was disappearing right in front of me. Grief has a way of rewriting the past into something much darker than it was. You loved him. That has to count for something. Does it? If you love someone and they still end up as an empty casket under a gray sky, what was the point of the love? It didn't save him. It didn't even keep him present. Maybe love isn't meant to be a cage that keeps someone here. Maybe it's just the light we leave on so they know where the door is. Then I should have left more lights on. I should have fought the shadows instead of just learning to live in them with him. Now I'm just standing in the dark, and I don't think I know the way back. I'm still here, Adrian. I'm not going to leave you in the dark. I know. But right now, I just need to be alone with the regret. It's the only thing of his I have left that feels real. 6 months. You know, they say time is supposed to dull the edges of a loss like that. But for Adrian, I think it only made the silence louder.
It's a strange irony, isn't it? On paper, he'd never been more successful. The merger went through. The coal empire was growing. He was standing at the absolute summit of everything he'd ever worked for. But when he walked through those front doors at night, it didn't feel like a palace anymore.
No, it felt like a mausoleum. That's a heavy word, but it fits. Every polished marble floor, every high ceiling, it was just a vast, cold space designed to hold the ghost of someone who wasn't there.
And then he finds himself in that guest room, the room where Noah stayed. I can almost see him sitting there on the edge of the bed, just tracing the fabric of the pillows, searching for a physical connection to a person who's been reduced to a memory.
That's when he finds it, tucked away under the mattress, the sketchbook. You have to wonder what went through his mind in that moment, to open those pages and realize that while he was busy building an empire, Noah was busy documenting him.
It wasn't just art, though. It was a confession. Every page was Adrian. Adrian hunched over his desk. Adrian caught in a moment of sleep. Adrian just staring out at the world through a window. Every stroke of the pencil was a testament to a love that never asked for anything in return, a silent, unrequited devotion that Adrian was too blind to see until the artist was gone.
It's devastating to see yourself through the eyes of someone who loved you that deeply, only to realize you let that light go out. He tried to drown it, didn't he? He drank until those sketches blurred, until the lines of Noah's affection became nothing but charcoal smudges.
He couldn't live with the reminders. He fired Marcus. He purged the house of everything that felt like the old life. He even grew to hate the smell of vanilla, probably because it reminded him of a sweetness he no longer felt he deserved.
He traded it all for the scent of rain and the weight of silence. It's as if he decided that if he couldn't have Noah, he'd rather have nothing at all. Just the cold, honest gray of a storm.
It's a lonely place to be, at the top of the world, in a house full of gold, clutching a book of drawings and waiting for a rain that never washes the regret away.
Sometimes I find myself thinking about the silence of that place, a cottage buried so deep in the pines that the rest of the world just ceases to exist. It's miles away from the noise, the mourners, and the grave that bears his name.
It's a haunting image, isn't it? The world is grieving a man who is still breathing, however faintly. I keep coming back to Dr. Elias Monroe, the weight he must carry. To stage a death, to pull a body from a morgue and dress it in a friend's identity. It's a desperate, illegal act. But when you look at the why, the word crime starts to feel inadequate.
It was a mercy, a dark, terrifying kind of mercy. You imagine Noah sitting there on that porch, wrapped in those heavy blankets to stave off a chill that isn't coming from the weather, it's coming from inside him. The narrative describes him as skeletal, just a frame of a person, except for his center.
That's the most jarring part of the tragedy, the contrast. You have the cancer, which is this hollow, consuming force, whittling his limbs down to nothing. And then, right there in the middle of that wreckage, you have this surge of life. The baby is growing strong, oblivious to the fact that the house it's living in is falling apart.
I can almost see Elias standing over him, checking those vitals and feeling the clock ticking in every pulse. When he tells Noah, "You're barely holding on," he isn't just giving a medical opinion. He's grieving in real time. He's watching his friend evaporate.
And Noah he smiles. That breaks me. It's not a smile of denial. It's a smile of completion. When he lifts his hand to sign, because he doesn't even have the breath left to speak, those words, almost there, just a little longer, they carry so much weight. He isn't asking for more time for himself. He's just asking for enough time to finish the handoff.
It's a literal trade. Every calorie he manages to take in, every ounce of strength his heart can muster, it's being siphoned away. He's fading so the child can brighten. It's a slow motion sacrifice happening one painful day at a time in a house that smells like pine needles and medicine.
It makes you wonder about the love required to exist in that space, to be dead to the world, to be in constant pain, and to look at your own end not as a defeat, but as a successful bargain. He's trading his entire future for a person he hasn't even met yet.
It's a lonely kind of heroism. There are no cameras, no audience, just the trees and a doctor who is breaking his oath to keep a promise. Noah's just sitting there, watching the sun go down over the pines, knowing he won't see many more of them, but being perfectly at peace with the exchange.
Just a little longer. That's all he needs. The sheer willpower required to keep a heart beating when the body has given up. It's a testament to something deeper than medicine. It's a tragedy, yes, but there's a strange, holy beauty in that kind of devotion.
There's a specific kind of silence that happens when someone knows they're reaching the end of their story, but they're desperate to start someone else's. I can't stop thinking about Noah in those final weeks, just sitting there, knowing he'd never see his son take a first step or graduate. It's the intentionality of it that gets me. He didn't spend that time mourning himself. He spent it writing. Every waking hour was dedicated to a future he wouldn't be part of. Birthdays he'd miss, heartbreaks he wouldn't be there to soothe. He was trying to build a bridge across a gap he knew he couldn't jump. And the physical toll of it, The narrative mentions his hand was shaking so badly he could barely form the letters. Can you imagine that? Elias sitting there beside him, not saying a word, just placing his own hand over the paper to keep it still. That's a heavy kind of friendship. To hold the page steady while your friend writes a goodbye he shouldn't have to write.
It's a quiet sort of grace. But what really stays with me, what I keep turning over in my head, is how he wrote about Adrian. It would have been so easy, so human, to be bitter, to tell his son that his father walked away. But Noah didn't do that. No, he did something much harder. He wrote, "Your father isn't a bad man. He just didn't know how to love me." That is such a profound level of maturity. To look at the person who let you down, who left you to face the end alone, and to choose to protect his image for the sake of the child. He wanted his son to come from a place of love, even if that love was a one-way street. He didn't want the boy to carry the weight of being a mistake or a burden. He wanted him to know he was born out of a genuine, deep affection, even if Adrian couldn't find his way to the same shore. Noah took all that rejection and refined it into something soft for his son to hold on to.
And then there were the videos. I think about those a lot. He was losing his voice, or maybe he just didn't have the breath left to speak. So he just looked into the camera. Those mute expressions. Sometimes words are they're too small, aren't they? A father looking at his unborn child through a lens, knowing this is the only way they'll ever meet. You can see the longing in his eyes. It's not a tragedy of anger. It's a tragedy of timing. It makes you realize that being a father isn't always about being there to catch them when they fall. Sometimes it's just about leaving enough of yourself behind so they never have to wonder if they were loved. Yeah. Noah didn't leave an inheritance of money or land. He left a map of his heart. And I think that's more than most children ever get. It's heartbreaking, but there's a strange, quiet beauty in how he chose to spend his last strength. Just keeping the light on for someone he'd never get to meet.
It's a strange kind of ritual, isn't it? Visiting a grave that doesn't actually hold a body. It's like Adrian was trying to bury his own guilt every Sunday, but the earth just wouldn't take it.
I think for someone like Adrian, that empty plot of land was the only place where the world felt quiet enough to breathe. He goes there, he stands in the silence, and then he sees them, the lilies, white lilies.
Noah's favorite. It's such a specific detail. It's not just a gesture of grief. It's a signature. It's someone saying, I knew him. I knew what he loved. And that's what stops Adrian in his tracks. Because who else is left to remember?
Exactly. Noah was a ghost even before he was gone. No family, no history, just the orphanage. And Adrian has spent all this time trying to buy back a clean conscience by funding that place, pouring money into the halls where Noah grew up. It's penance, really. But penance is a lonely road until someone else steps onto it with you. He finds the groundskeeper. You can almost hear the tremor in Adrian's voice when he asks who brought them. And the answer, it changes everything. A man with glasses, looked like a doctor.
A doctor. That word must have felt like a physical blow, because there's only one face that fits that description in Adrian's mind. Elias Monroe, the man from the clinic, the one who looked at Adrian not as a benefactor or a grieving friend, but with this cold, biting disdain. It's that look of judgment that stays with you. If Elias was there at the grave, leaving Noah's favorite flowers, then what does Elias know that Adrian doesn't? It's a terrifying thought. It's more than terrifying. It's what Adrian calls a dangerous hope. When you finally accepted that someone is gone, hope isn't a comfort. It's a threat. It's a crack in the floor you've built your life on. He's standing there, looking at those white petals against the dark soil, and suddenly the grief isn't the heaviest thing in his chest anymore. It's the suspicion, the possibility that the story he's been telling himself, the tragedy he's been living, might have a different ending. It's a heavy realization, to realize that your penance might have been for a sin that didn't end where you thought it did. He's confused, he's scared,
but for the first time in a long time, he's looking for a living man instead of mourning a dead one. And that shift, that's where the real journey begins, I think, between the memory of the boy he lost and the shadow of the doctor who might be holding the truth. It's a quiet moment, but it's the loudest Adrian's world has been in years.
You know, I've been sitting with that moment in my head all morning, the sheer weight of it. There's something so haunting about the silence of it all before the chaos starts. Noah waking up not to a sound, but to that constant fire. It wasn't a wave anymore. It was just the new reality of his body. It's the silent scream that gets me. When pain reaches a point where your voice just fails you, you're hollowed out by it. And then you have Elias coming in. He's trying to be the anchor, trying to be the professional with the syringe in his hand, but you can feel his composure just fraying at the edges. I think about that 34-week mark a lot. It's that cruel middle ground. You're so close to the finish line, you can almost see the life you've been planning for, and then the floor just drops out. To hear that the baby was radiating distress, it's like the womb itself was turning into a place of urgency instead of a sanctuary. And Elias's voice, it's mentioned that it was trembling. That's the turning point for me. Elias is the one who's supposed to have the answers, the one who's supposed to fix things. But when he says, "or we lose both of you," that's not a medical diagnosis anymore. That's a man facing the possibility of his entire world disappearing in a single hour. It's a heavy burden for a young man to carry, to have to look at the person you love most and admit that you might not be able to save them. It's an admission of powerlessness, even though he's the one holding the scalpel. But then Noah does something that I think defines what it means to be a parent, even in that state of total agony. He reaches out. He doesn't pull Elias closer for comfort. He grabs his wrist to stop him, to make him listen. He looks him in the eye and asks for the impossible sacrifice. Save him first. 3 words. It's so simple, yet so devastating. In that moment, Noah isn't a patient anymore. He's not even a man in pain. He's just a father. He's deciding right there in the middle of the fire that his own life is a secondary concern. He's giving Elias permission to let him go, as long as the boy lives. I wonder if Elias could even hear that without breaking. To be told by the person you love to prioritize someone else over them. It's the ultimate act of love, but it's also a terrible thing to ask of the person staying behind. It's a quiet, selfless kind of bravery that it leaves you breathless. It does. It makes you realize how fragile it all is. We spend so much time worrying about the future, but for them, in that room, the entire universe had shrunk down to a bedsheet, a trembling hand, and a choice that would change everything forever. It's a reminder of the cost of love. Sometimes it's beautiful, but sometimes like this, it's just profoundly heavy. You just hope that, through the pain, they felt how much they meant to each other, even if it was the last thing they felt. It's the smell that stays with you, I think, long after the adrenaline fades. That heavy, metallic scent of blood mixed with the sharp, clinical sting of iodine, all of it trapped inside those small cottage walls.
It's a haunting contrast, isn't it? A place that should feel like a sanctuary turned into a makeshift theater of survival. And Noah, he was right in the center of that storm.
I keep thinking about the silence. The prompt says he endured it all without a word. No screaming, just those tears. Falling back, tracing lines into his ears, because he couldn't even move to wipe them away. He knew that any medicine strong enough to help him would have put the child at risk.
It's a quiet kind of bravery. It's not the kind you see in movies with grand gestures. It's the internal resolve to let the pain happen, because the outcome is worth more than your own comfort. He chose to be the vessel for that suffering, just to give the boy a clean start.
And then that first sound, it wasn't a whimper. It was a lusty cry. It's such a powerful word to use there. It's a sound of defiance, isn't it? Life announcing itself in a room that felt so close to the edge of something much darker.
I can almost see Elias in that moment, The weight he must have felt, lifting that tiny, perfect life. To look at Noah, exhausted, broken down, and finally be able to say those words. It's a boy. It's the moment the tragedy of the labor transforms into the miracle of the arrival.
When Elias placed him on Noah's chest, that's the image that sticks. Noah's hands were trembling so much. You have to wonder what was going through his mind when his skin finally touched that slick new life. After months of waiting, of fear, of wondering if they'd even make it to this night.
Liam.
He didn't even have the breath to say it out loud. He just mouthed it. A name he'd been holding on to like a prayer. And the way the baby quieted the second he felt Noah's touch. It's as if the child recognized the person who had just suffered everything for him. It's a heavy beauty. You realize that even in the middle of a tragedy, in a world where they have so little that they have to use a cottage floor as a hospital, they still manage to protect that one small, perfect thing.
They did. It's a testament to what we're willing to endure for someone we haven't even met yet. A quiet room, a sharp scent, and a name. Liam. It's a lot to carry, but in that moment, I think it was enough.
It's hard to sit with a story like this for too long without feeling a physical weight in your chest. You think about that room, the contrast of it. You have Liam, this brand new life, still warm and smelling like the beginning of everything. And right next to him, Noah is just fading.
It's the cruelty of the timing that gets me. You want to believe that the joy of seeing his son would give his body some kind of second wind, you know? A surge of adrenaline to keep the blood moving. But the narrative is so clear about it. The hemorrhage didn't care about the moment. His body was just too tired. The cancer had already mapped out the end, regardless of how much love was in the room.
And no one knew. That's the part that haunts me. When he felt that coldness creeping up his limbs, that's a very specific kind of lonely terror. But he didn't use those last few seconds to panic for himself. He pointed to the phone. Even as his vision was blurring into nothing, he was thinking about Adrian. He was thinking about the bridge that needed to be built for his son.
It's a heavy burden for Elias, too. Standing there watching his friend try to communicate a lifetime of information with just a gesture toward a screen. Noah wanted Adrian to know he wasn't just leaving behind a memory. He was leaving behind a person, a legacy. But the strength just wasn't there to say the words.
I keep thinking about that final kiss. He leans down, inhales the scent of Liam's forehead. It's like he was trying to memorize the essence of his son so he could carry it with him into whatever comes next. It's the ultimate hello and goodbye, happening in the exact same breath.
And then the hand slips. That detail always stays with me. The physical connection breaking. 1 second, he's a father protecting his child's back, and the next, gravity just takes over. His body becomes a vessel that's finally empty.
Then the monitor starts. That long, flat drone. In a place like the Delta, where everything is already so hushed and isolated, that sound must have felt like it was tearing the world open. It's the sound of a period being placed at the end of a sentence that felt like it should have been a chapter longer.
It's a profound silence that follows. The mute delta becomes eternal, like the prompt says. It's not just that Noah stopped breathing. It's that the world he lived in, the struggle, the secrecy, the hope, it all just leveled out into that one continuous note.
You just hope that in some way, the peace he found in that last scent of his son was enough to carry him through the silence. It's a lot to process, man. It really is.
Yeah. It's a reminder of how fragile the thread is, but also how much a person can love in the very last second they have left.
You ever think about how thin the glass is between the life we build, the titles, the meetings, the schedules, and the life that actually matters?
I think about it a lot, especially with Adrian. He was right in the center of it that morning. A boardroom high above the city, mahogany and glass, the kind of place where you feel untouchable, like the world can't reach you unless you give it permission.
And then his phone vibrates. An unknown number. Usually, a man like that, in a meeting like that,
He doesn't even look at it. But he did. He said later that there was this pull, this heavy intuition that the silence of the room was about to be broken.
It's that instinct we all try to bury under professionalism. He answers with his name, Adrian Cole. Sharp, professional, a bit impatient. He's still the executive in that moment. But then the voice on the other end speaks. Dr. Elias Monroe.
Elias wasn't just a doctor, though. He was a messenger. And his voice wasn't clinical. Adrian said it sounded cold. But it was the kind of cold that comes from someone trying not to scream. Just pure, suppressed rage and grief.
Can you imagine being told to come immediately while you're looking at a quarterly projection or a merger? Adrian tries to fight it. He says, "I'm busy." It's a reflex. He's trying to hold on to the world that makes sense.
But Elias didn't let him. He just dropped those two names into the silence. It's about Noah and your son.
That's the moment the glass shattered.
It's strange how we react to the worst news of our lives. You'd think there would be a shout or a question. But for Adrian, his hands just stopped working. The phone didn't just fall, it slipped. That sound, that clatter of plastic and metal hitting a glass table, it must have sounded like a gunshot in that quiet room.
Everything stopped. The board members, the assistants, they're all watching this man, this leader, just drain. He went pale, didn't he? Like the blood just decided it didn't need to be there anymore.
He didn't say a word to them. He didn't excuse himself. He didn't gather his papers. He just stood up and ran. I keep thinking about that image. A man in a three-piece suit running through a marble lobby, leaving everything he worked for behind, because none of it meant anything the second those names were spoken.
It's a reminder, I guess. We spend so much time building these walls, these busy lives. But at the end of the day, we're all just one phone call away from realizing how small those walls really are.
Yeah. One call, one name, and the rest is just empty glass.
I keep going back to that moment in the hallway. The way the air felt, it was too thin. I remember the sound of my own boots hitting the linoleum, feeling like if I just moved fast enough, I could outrun what was coming. I saw you coming through those double doors. You looked like you were searching for a ghost. I wanted to tell you to stop, to slow down, because I knew that once you reached me, the world you knew was going to end.
You were just standing there, in the middle of the lobby. You looked so still, like you turned to stone. And then I saw the blue, that small, wrapped bundle in your arms. My heart it stopped. I didn't want to ask. I think deep down I already knew. I didn't have the words yet. I had practiced what to say, but when I looked at you, it all just felt hollow. Noah was always the one who knew what to say. He was the light in the room, and the realization that the room was finally, truly dark. It was heavy. I asked you where he was. I remember my voice sounding so foreign to me, like a stranger's voice. And you looked at me, and your eyes, they weren't angry, though I thought they were at the time. They were just empty.
It wasn't anger, no. It was just the weight of the truth. I had to tell you he was gone. I had to say the words for real this time because Noah had cheated death so many times before. We all thought he was invincible. We thought his love for the life he was carrying would be enough to keep him anchored here.
And then you handed him to me.
I had to. I couldn't hold that much grief and that much new life all at once. It was too much for one person.
I looked down at the blanket, expecting to feel, I don't know, bitterness, resentment. But then he opened his eyes, and I felt the floor fall away from under me. Those were Noah's eyes, the same soft almond shape, that same deep, dark clarity.
It was like Noah had left a part of his soul behind just so we wouldn't have to be entirely alone. That's the tragedy of it, isn't it? The cost. I remember telling you his name, Liam. It felt like a confession. I told you it was the life Noah traded his for. At the time, it felt like a cruel exchange, a debt we could never pay back. It didn't feel cruel when he whimpered, though. It felt like a plea, like he was asking us to help him carry the legacy he didn't even know he had yet. He's a beautiful boy. He has Noah's quietness. He does. And every time he looks at me, I'm reminded that love doesn't always look like a long life. Sometimes it looks like a sacrifice. Sometimes it looks like a blue blanket and a pair of dark eyes that are just beginning to see the world.
We're going to have to be enough for him. We have to be the grace that Noah gave up for him to be here.
We will be. We have to be. For Noah, for Liam, for us.
I didn't want to come in here. I think some part of me already knew that whatever was in that room was going to change everything. Sit down, please. You've been running on adrenaline for days, and you need to be still for this. There's no easy way to say what needs to be said, so I'm just going to let the record speak. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Wait, look at the date on the top right. 8 months ago? Look at the second page, the one clipped underneath. A pregnancy confirmation. It's the same date. The exact same day he found out he was dying. He found out about the baby. I don't understand. Why didn't he say anything? Why did he just disappear? Because he knew you, probably better than you know yourself. He knew the moment he told you he was sick, you would have moved heaven and earth to save him. You would have found every specialist, every experimental trial. But the treatment, the aggressive chemo, the radiation, it would have been the end for the child. My hands, I can't make them stop shaking. He knew. All those months he was away, acting like he didn't care, like he wanted space. He was just sitting in the dark, hurting. He made a choice that most people couldn't even contemplate. He chose to endure the unendurable, in total isolation. He knew that if he stayed, if you saw him fading, he would have forced him to choose his own life. He would have told him that the baby didn't matter as long as he stayed with you. And he couldn't let you make that choice. He chose to die in pain, just to give me an heir, to give me a piece of him that would outlive the cancer. He didn't see it as a death sentence, I think. In his mind, it was a trade. He traded his time for the baby's life. He hid the sickness, he hid the pregnancy, and he hid himself away so he could slip into the shadows before you had the chance to stop him. He wanted you to have a future, even if he couldn't be in it. I thought he had left me because he didn't love me anymore. I spent months hating him for his silence. And all this time, he was carrying the weight of the whole world alone. How am I supposed to live with this? How am I supposed to look at this child and not just see the cost? You live for him. You look at that child and you see the person he loved more than his own breath. It's a heavy legacy, I know. It's a crushing weight. But he didn't do this so you would feel guilty. He did it so you wouldn't be alone. I just wish I could have held his hand. Just once. To tell him it was okay to be selfish. I know. But for him, this was his way of holding yours. He's still here. In the pages. In the sacrifice. and soon in the life he's leaving behind for you. Just breathe. Just try to breathe.
There is a specific kind of silence that settles in a room right before a life changes forever. It's heavy, almost physical. When Elias set that laptop down in front of Adrian, I don't think either of them was breathing. It was just the hum of the fan and the weight of everything unsaid.
And then the screen flickers. That blue light hitting Adrian's face, it's the last moment of his old life. On the screen there's Noah, but it isn't the Noah he remembers. He looks so small in that cottage, doesn't he? So fragile, like a sketch that's starting to fade around the edges. But he's smiling. That's the part that really gets to me. He's the one leaving, yet he's the one trying to offer comfort.
It's a brave smile, but the silence in the video, the fact that he can't even find the breath to speak, it forces you to lean in. When he holds up that first card, "Hi, Adrian," it's like a physical blow. Then the apology follows. "If you're watching this, I'm sorry I lied." It's such a complex thing to apologize for, isn't it? Hiding your own ending because you love someone too much to let them watch it?
It's a selfless kind of dishonesty, but it carries a terrible price. You can see it in Adrian's eyes as he watches. The tears aren't just from grief, they're from the realization of what Noah was carrying all by himself. Noah flips to the next card. "I didn't want to be a burden." That word, burden. It's heartbreaking that he felt his existence, his struggle, could ever be a weight Adrian wasn't willing to carry.
He wanted to leave something beautiful behind. He didn't want the memory of the illness to be the final word. And then the video takes this turn, this deeply human, almost desperate turn. Noah points to his belly. He's looking at the future, at the life he's leaving for Adrian. The card says, "Please love him." It's a plea, but it's also a second chance for Adrian. But it's the final card that really pierces the heart. "Don't be cold to him like you were to me." That's a heavy mirror to hold up to someone. It's not meant to be cruel, I don't think. It's Noah's final act of honesty. He's saying, "I forgive you for the distance you kept, but please, for the sake of this child, don't let fear make you cold again." He's asking Adrian to break the cycle. It's a tall order to give someone from a video screen, to ask them to transform their grief into a warmth they didn't have before. And yet, when Noah ends it, he doesn't use words or cards. He just blows that silent kiss. It's so quiet, but it fills the entire room.
It's the ultimate "I love you." It's Noah saying that despite the lies, despite the coldness, and despite the ending, there is still so much love left over. Adrian is left sitting there in the dark, watching a ghost tell him how to finally start living. It's devastating, but in a way, it's the most profound gift Noah could have given him.
It's the stillness that stays with you, isn't it? When Elias finally took me back there, to that room, I expected chaos. I expected to feel the heat of the fire still lingering on him, but it was just quiet. So incredibly quiet.
There is a specific kind of gravity in a room like that. It's like the air itself is holding its breath. You don't want to move too fast because you're afraid you'll disturb a peace that took so long to find.
Exactly. And when I saw him, Noah didn't look like the man who had been running for his life. Under that white sheet, on that cold metal, he looked barely 20. The lines of tension, the way he always carried the weight of the world in his shoulders, it was all gone. He looked younger than I'd ever seen him.
It's a strange mercy, in a way, to see someone who had endured so much finally look unburdened. But I imagine that peace felt like a betrayal to you in that moment.
It did, because it was so final. For days, I'd been chasing the smoke, believing the fire was the story. I fought if I could just understand the flames, I could find him. But the fire was a lie, a distraction. The truth was much colder. It was the temperature of his skin when I finally reached out to touch his cheek.
That's the moment it becomes real, isn't it? When the hope you've been white-knuckling finally slips away. What did you say to him? Or were there even words left?
I whispered to him. I felt like a child, honestly. I just kept telling him to wake up. I told him I'd listen now. That was the thing that broke me. realizing how many times he had tried to speak to me in his own way, and I was too busy, too loud, too caught up in the noise of everything else to truly hear him. I promised him, "I'll listen now, Noah. I swear, I'll listen."
But he was always the mute delta. Silence was his language, even when he was alive. And in that room, he gave you his final, most profound silence. It wasn't a silence of anger, though. From what you're describing, it sounds like it was a silence of release.
It was. He wasn't fighting anymore. He wasn't hiding. He was just free. But standing there, looking at him, I realized that the hardest part of grief isn't just missing the person. It's the weight of the things you finally have the heart to say, only to realize you've run out of time to say them.
We spend so much time waiting for the right moment to be vulnerable, thinking the people we love are permanent fixtures. Then the world goes quiet, and we're left standing in a back room with nothing but our own echoes. He looked so serene, like he'd finally found the answer to a question he'd been asking for 28 years. I just wish I didn't have to learn how to listen by talking to a ghost. Maybe that's his final gift to you, as painful as it is. He taught you the value of the quiet. You're listening now, truly listening. It's just a tragedy that the first thing you had to hear was the sound of him letting go.
I spent 3 days obsessing over the flower arrangements. Lilies, white roses. I wanted the music to be perfect. I thought if I made the funeral grand enough, it would somehow, fill the space he left behind.
You wanted to give him the world you didn't give him when he was here. It's a natural impulse, Adrian. But ceremonies are for the living. They don't change the quiet.
He looks down at the baby in his arms, his voice trembling slightly. It felt meaningless. All those people in expensive suits, the polished wood of the casket, it was just noise. This, holding Liam, is the only thing that feels real. He's so warm. It's the only warmth I have left in this house. He's a miracle, but I can see it in your eyes. You're holding him like you're afraid he'll shatter. It's the silence, man. Every time he stops crying, every time he falls into a deep sleep, I panic. I find myself checking his pulse, leaning in just to hear him breathe, because the silence is terrifying. You're not just hearing the silence of the room, are you? A long pause, his gaze fixed on the shadows. No. I'm realizing that Noah lived in that silence for years. I built this nursery in a week, but I built a wall around him for a lifetime. I ignored him. I looked past him like he was part of the furniture. I let him be unseen. That's a heavy realization to carry alone. You were focused on the legacy, the Cole name, the empire. The empire. I sacrificed everything for a throne made of ice. I thought I was being strong, being a leader. But sitting here now, the weight of what I did to him, it's heavier than any business deal or board meeting. It's a physical burden. It's right here, in my chest. You're seeing the cost now. The true price of that empire wasn't your happiness, Adrian. It was his. I looked at Liam tonight and realized he has Noah's eyes, and I'm terrified that one day he'll look at me and see the man who let his father wither away in the dark. I was so busy building a future that I destroyed the only person who actually loved me in the present. Quietly. You can't go back and fix the silence Noah lived in. All you can do is make sure Liam never has to know what that kind of silence feels like. You have to be the warmth now. Tightening his hold on the baby slightly, his voice a whisper. I have to be. But God, the debt I owe him, I don't think a lifetime of being a good father can ever pay it back. I'm finally awake, and all I want to do is go back to sleep and hope this was a nightmare. Stay awake, Adrian, for the boy. He needs the version of you that Noah deserved. It's a long road, but you're not walking it by yourself. Nodding slowly, a single tear falling. I just hope he can hear me. Somewhere. I hope he knows I finally see him.
It's the silence that gets you, isn't it? The way the world just stops when you find something you weren't ready to see. Adrian was going through Noah's things, just looking for a way to stay connected, I think. And he finds it. A sealed envelope. 3 words on the front. For my husband. You can almost feel the weight of those 3 words. They aren't just a label, they're an anchor. Adrian said his hands were shaking so much he could barely break the seal. He expected pages and pages of explanations, maybe even a goodbye. But it wasn't that. It was a sketch. Just a drawing. Noah was always observant, wasn't he? He captured Adrian holding the baby, and Adrian is smiling. It's a version of Adrian that perhaps he didn't even recognize in himself anymore. A version that looked soft, kind. And then there's that note at the bottom. It's so simple, but it carries the weight of their entire history. You were my son, even when you burned me. That line, it's devastating. To acknowledge the pain of the relationship, the heat, the volatility, but to still call him the son. It's a heavy thing to be told you burned the person you loved. Adrian spent so much of their time together being the fire. Intense, consuming, maybe even destructive at times. He knew he wasn't easy to love. But Noah didn't just endure the heat. He drew warmth from it. He saw the purpose in the fire when Adrian only saw the damage. And the instruction follows. Be his son now. Warm him. Noah wasn't asking Adrian to change who he was. He was asking him to redirect that intensity, to take all that burning energy and use it to keep their child safe, to be the light for someone else, even if he couldn't be it for himself. I keep thinking about Adrian clutching that paper to his chest. Not just holding it, but trying to press it into his skin. He was sobbing, but it wasn't just grief for the loss. It was the realization that he'd been forgiven, and sometimes that's the hardest thing to survive. Exactly. If Noah had cursed him, Adrian would have had something to fight against. He could have used his anger as a shield. But forgiveness strips you bare. It forces you to look at the wreckage you caused and realize the person you hurt still wanted the best for you. Noah died trying to give Adrian's fire a place to land. He turned a tragedy into a legacy. He didn't want Adrian to go cold just because he was gone. No, he wanted him to keep burning, just differently this time, with a little more gentleness. It's a beautiful, terrible gift to leave behind, to tell someone, I know who you are, I know what you did, and I still believe you can be the light. I don't think Adrian will ever truly stop feeling the burn of those words. But maybe in time, he'll start to feel the warmth too. For the sake of the boy in the sketch, for the sake of being the son Noah knew he could be.
It's been 5 years. You know, they say time is supposed to dull the edges of grief, to turn it into something manageable. But looking at Adrian standing there in the Vancouver rain, it doesn't look like it's faded. It's just settled. It's become the air he breathes. I think that's the most striking part. The way the narrative describes the rain, not as a veil anymore, but as a baptism of grief. It's as if for 5 years he's been waiting for a permission he never gave himself. A permission to just feel the weight of it all without trying to run.
And then there's Liam, 5 years old. Can you imagine looking into the eyes of a child and seeing the exact reflection of the person you lost? To see Noah's spirit, that gentleness, living on in a boy who has to ask if his papa is just sleeping.
That question, Daddy, is Papa sleeping? It's so innocent, yet it's the heaviest thing in the world. And Adrian's response is so quiet. Yes, Liam, he's sleeping. There's a certain kind of mercy in that lie, isn't there? He's protecting Liam from the finality of it, even while he's drowning in that finality himself.
It's the contrast that gets me. Adrian stands there under that black umbrella, looking out at the Vancouver skyline. He has everything now. The power, the money, the legacy, the air. Everything the world tells us is the end game. But in that moment, the skyline just looks gray. It looks empty.
Because none of it is currency in the place where Noah is. You can't buy back a single second. Adrian would trade every building in that city, every cent in his accounts, just for 1 minute of silence. Not even a conversation, just to hold Noah's hand, to say the 3 words that, in the end, are the only words that matter.
I love you. It's such a simple phrase, but when it's directed at a headstone, it carries a weight that can break a man. He's achieved the height of success, and yet he's never been more aware of his own poverty. He's rich in everything but the one thing he actually needs.
I found that ending so hauntingly beautiful, though. The wind blowing, and for just a second, the rain didn't sound like a storm or a morning. It sounded like a sigh, a forgiving one.
Maybe that's what he needed most. Not the money or the power, but the sense that Noah isn't holding on to the pain the way Adrian is. That maybe in some way the universe is telling him it's okay to let the rain wash a little bit of that guilt away.
It's a long road, though. 5 years down and a lifetime to go. But at least he isn't standing there alone. He's holding Liam's hand. And in a way, that means he's still holding a piece of Noah, too.